Back to our channel. So today we are going to start our blood physiology lessons. So first we are going to start with the introduction. So first we need to know what is blood and what are plasma proteins. So we need to start with the basics to understand this. So first we have some important terms. Let us start with that. So first one is colloid osmotic pressure. So this is nothing but the osmotic pressure which is exerted by the plasma proteins. So first we need to understand what is osmosis. Osmosis is nothing but the transport of water from higher side to lower side, and osmotic pressure is the pressure which is applied to stop this osmosis. That is, now we know the water should move from higher side to lower side. Now by applying osmotic pressure on lower side, what happens is now both sides it will be equal. This is osmotic pressure actually. So here colloid osmotic pressure means the osmotic pressure which is exerted by plasma proteins. So the pressure, some pressure is coming from the plasma proteins, that is called as colloid osmotic pressure. And now let us see what is pinocytosis. So pinocytosis is nothing but a form of endocytosis. Endocytosis means to take up something inside. Exocytosis means to push out something outside. Now here endocytosis means to take up inside the cell. So in which the small particles are brought into the cell and they are suspended within small vesicles and that are pinched off from the cell membrane. That's what we know, that is the endocytosis. So always remember that pinocytosis means is nothing but mainly taking the fluid particles. So this process is also called as drinking process, fluid intake process. And now let us see plasma proteins. So mainly plasma proteins are nothing but the proteins. They are also proteins which are mainly present in plasma, hence the name plasma proteins. Mainly about our interstitial fluid, our extracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid is mainly having plasma fluid, which is present in our blood, and we have our interstitial fluid which is present in between the cells. So inside the cells we have intracellular fluid. So we know interstitial fluid along with the plasma fluid form the extracellular fluid, and you know that plasma proteins can't pass by the capillary membranes, so they stay there and they form this pressure, colloid osmotic pressure. Whereas in interstitial fluid and plasma are remaining fluid can easily interexchange between the capillary walls. So plasma proteins are mainly only present in plasma. So these are the proteins only present in plasma, and they have the wide variety of functions. So we will see all those functions in this lesson. So now let's go into our topic. So first we need to introduce our blood. So what is blood actually? Blood makes up to 7 to 8% of body weight. So in our whole of our body weight, only blood is taking 7 to 8%. And it is 5 liters totally. Our cardiac output is also 5 liters because only that much of blood is present, and that much only our heart also can pump and it is getting out. So even our cardiac output is 5 liters in adults, and also even our blood is present is also 5 liters. So what is the main function of our blood? It transports oxygen, nutrients to tissues, mainly from pulmonary and digestive system. Why from pulmonary? Our lungs oxygenate the blood, so from lungs it takes the oxygenated blood and supply to the tissues. And also nutrients are mainly coming from the digestive system. So from the digestive system it takes the nutrients and supply to whole of our body. And also it helps in taking away the waste from the tissues to the pulmonary system. So waste means mainly which type of waste it will take to pulmonary system? Nothing but carbon dioxide. So the blood only again collects all the carbon dioxide and take it back again to the pulmonary system, to the lungs, so that lungs can again convert this carbon dioxide into oxygen. So this process continues. So as we said, it is our blood is bringing waste. We also have some other waste of which blood carries, mainly lactic acid from muscles. Whenever we do a lot of exercise, lactic acid gets accumulated over there. So even this lactic acid is taken by our blood as a waste product during mainly anaerobic respiration, we know that. And also urea, ammonia, all these substances are carried by our blood. And blood also maintains the pH of body fluids. And also it takes part in thermal equilibrium, maintaining the thermal equilibrium. And also it gives immunity. How it gives immunity? Mainly by means of WBC, white blood cells. Especially in white blood cells we have T cells, B cells, right? So those all mainly provide the immunity to us by forms of blood. So blood is also useful in transport of hormones. Endocrine hormones, their main mode of transport of hormones, because endocrine, they directly secrete the hormone into the blood, and now blood need to carry it into the target organ. So here also blood plays a very important role in transport of hormones. And also it also has a clotting property. Whenever we get any injury, the blood clotting properties because of having its coagulation proteins, all those things. And also it reduce or stop the blood loss from the body. Platelets, how they help in coagulation process. We also have coagulation cascade, so reduce or stop the blood loss from the body. And also blood have many cellular and matrix component. So what are the cellular components? RBC, WBC, platelets. And what are the matrix component? Mainly are plasma. So like RBC, WBC, platelets and plasma. So RBC, now let us start about our main cell in our blood, that is our RBC. So RBC is also nothing but red blood cell. It is a large microscopic cell, yeah, we can't see with our eyes, and no nuclei. That is very important in the case of RBC. And also remember, RBC don't have mitochondria also. No nuclei, no mitochondria, only large microscopic cell. Red colored biconcave cells, we know red color of blood is mainly due to oxygenated red cells or oxygenated RBC. So RBC takes up the half of the total blood volume. And WBC. WBC are also called as leukocytes or white blood cells. See, these are small part of the blood volume. Remember, RBC take half of the part of the blood volume, but WBC only take a small part of the blood volume, and they are involved in immune responses as we discussed. So, and they also are also present outside the blood. Once think where outside the blood are WBC are present, mainly in our spleen, liver, lymph node, all these areas. And that's it. Spleen, liver, lymph node, why they are present over there, we'll see all those things later. And now platelets and thrombocytes. Platelets are also called as thrombocytes. These are the small anuclear bodies. Even platelets don't have nucleus, they are small anuclear bodies which mainly help in process of stopping the bleeding and also help in coagulation pathways. And now plasma. Plasma is a cell-free fluid matrix. Remember, plasma don't have any cell, only it has proteins. Those are called as plasma proteins. So this is a cell-free fluid matrix. It is only obtained after the centrifugation of anticoagulant treated blood. Anticoagulant, for example, you take any anticoagulant put in the blood, and it treat it with anticoagulant means now the blood is not anticoagulating, means it is still in the form of fluid. So in that fluid, if you centrifuge it, means at the bottom or at the top, you will get the fluid, remaining fluid, that is nothing but our plasma. And we need to for sure differentiate the plasma from serum to get the clear information. So what is serum? Serum is nothing but the portion of blood that is we are getting after the coagulation is completed. So when the coagulation is completed, whenever you get any wound after coagulation completed, you see some fluid like substance, that is nothing but serum. So serum is also having one more definition, that is serum is nothing but it's a plasma without the proteins of coagulation. This is very important. So serum is nothing but the plasma without the proteins of coagulation. So that's what we are saying. Serum we get it after the blood coagulation is complete. And remember that serum don't have any coagulation proteins. That is nothing but serum. And now let us see plasma. Plasma is actually a light yellow colored substance, and 55% of the blood volume is occupied by plasma, and it have the plasma proteins and blood clotting factors are present. So this is very differentiating factor between our blood plasma and serum. Serum don't have any coagulation proteins, whereas plasma have the blood clotting factors, and also it has sugars, lipids, vitamins, minerals, hormones, enzymes, antibodies, everything is present. Almost you can say all the substances are present in plasma. So plasma have some major proteins like AGF. You can remember like AGF: albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. Now let us see each of this importance. So albumin function is mainly to provide the colloid osmotic pressure in the plasma. So till now we have discussed the colloid osmotic pressure, which is provided by plasma protein. So that colloid osmotic pressure is mainly created by our albumin. And albumin also prevents the plasma loss from the capillaries, because we can understand as it is having proteins, it prevents proteins can't move out from the capillaries. So that's how. And next let us see globulin. Globulin mainly perform enzymatic functions in the plasma, and also responsible for body's both natural and acquired immunity against invading organisms. So albumin is making proteins of plasma, and globulin is involved in enzymatic activities and also provide acquired and natural immunity. And fibrinogen is polymerized into long fibrin threads during blood coagulation and forming the blood clots that help to repair the leaks in the circulatory system. So three proteins are very high yield proteins because they are having very high functions. Albumin form the plasma proteins, globulin form acquired and innate immunity, fibrinogen help to form the clots. So three of them play a very important role which are present in plasma. So plasma have AGF: albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. And now let us see how these plasma proteins are formed. So all albumin, fibrinogen along with the 50 to 80% of globulins, remaining of the globulins are formed in lymphoid tissue, and many of the GABA globulins have antibody which is used mainly in immune system. We already discussed that globulin are mainly used in immune system. So formation of plasma proteins, let us see. So mainly this plasma proteins, all this, that is albumin, fibrinogen, globulin, including all globulins, everything is formed in the liver. So mainly liver have high in liver, and liver have this high capacity to form these plasma proteins. It can produce about 30 grams of these plasma proteins for every day. For every day it produces about 30 grams of albumin, 30 grams of fibrinogen, 30 grams of globulins. So very high power for the liver. And remember that in globulins, the remaining of the globulins are formed in lymphoid tissue. As we said, all are formed in liver, but exception in the globulin is that some of the globulins are formed in the lymphoid tissue, mainly the GABA globulins, which are having antibodies which is used in immune system. These GABA globulins are mainly formed in lymphoid tissue rather than liver tissue. And in some cases like severe burns, there is loss of liters of plasma from the burnt area each day. So that is very important. In severe burns, plasma is lost a lot. And also in severe renal disease, there is loss of about 20 grams of plasma proteins in urine each day. It takes for so many months, and it's continuously replaced by our liver proteins. So our liver plays a major role to form different kinds of protein in this case of severe renal disease. And also in liver cirrhosis, that is, a fibrous tissue is formed in a parenchyma of liver, and this mainly causes to decrease the synthesis of plasma protein. You can understand now plasma protein are mainly forming from liver. So if the liver is only undergoing the process of fibrosis, then there will be really very much decrease in synthesis of plasma protein. So this leads to decrease in plasma colloid osmotic pressure. Of course, if the plasma proteins are not produced, then their colloidal pressure also decreases, and this mainly causes the generalized edema. So why generalized edema is formed? So this is a very question. So if there is decrease in plasma colloid osmotic pressure, why generalized edema is formed? This is a very important question. We need to recall our first lesson. So if you remember, negatively charged which is present inside the cell actually attracts the positively charged. For example, if this negatively charged plasma protein is present inside the cell, then it attracts sodium normally. So as as it is attracting sodium inside, so because of sodium potassium pump, it maintains the sodium again. It let our sodium 3 out and 2 potassium in. So this process follows and everything is balancing and everything is getting homeostatic. But in the case when the plasma colloid osmotic pressure is absent inside the cell, then that negative charge is lost. So that now there is lot of accumulation of sodium outside the cell. So because of this, it leads to increase in sodium. Where sodium is present, water follows it. So as the sodium is present more in our extracellular fluid, water also gets followed there, and it leads to complete the generalized edema. So this is the concept we need to understand. And next, only substances or proteins which can't pass by the semi-permeable membrane can exceed the osmotic pressure, because if they pass outside, then the osmotic pressure changes, but it is a fixed osmotic pressure inside the cell, so they should not cross the semi-permeable membrane. And the proteins of plasma and interstitial fluids are responsible for osmotic pressure on two sides of capillary membrane, and this is called colloid osmotic pressure, also called as oncotic pressure. So this oncotic pressure is mainly maintained by our plasma proteins. So because of the protein solution, it resembles the colloid solution, but truly it's a molecular solution. So it is got this name as colloid because proteins are looking like colloid, but they are truly molecular solution. And normal colloid osmotic pressure of human plasma is about 28 milligrams per mercury. And for example, if 19 milligrams of mercury of this is caused by the molecular effects of dissolved protein, and also 9 milligrams of mercury is by Donan effect. So what is this Donan effect? You can see here 19 plus 9, 9 and 18, 28. So total 28 milligrams of mercury of normal colloid osmotic pressure of human plasma is mainly obtained from 19 from the molecular effects of proteins, and 9 from Donan effect. So what is this Donan effect? Donan effect, there is nothing but the extra osmotic pressure. It is caused by sodium, potassium, and also other cations which are held in plasma by proteins. So because of plasma proteins, some of the sodium, potassium, and also other cations are fixed there along with the plasma proteins. So because of that, 9 milligrams of Donan effect is producing. So 9 plus 19 together form 28. So remember that the normal colloid osmotic pressure of human plasma is always 28 milligrams of mercury. This is very important point. We'll see this in even edema, all these cases. So we need to remember colloid osmotic pressure of plasma is 28. And the plasma protein, albumin has molecular weight of 69,000, globulin 1,40,000, fibrinogen of 4 lakhs. So these are the molecular weights of albumin, globulin and fibrinogen. And 1 gram of globulin is nothing but half molecule of 1 gram of albumin, because its globulin is higher than albumin. And 1 gram of fibrinogen is nothing but 1/6 of 1 gram of albumin, because fibrinogen is having much more molecular weight when compared with albumin. So if you want to arrange this according to our molecular weight, then you can say that fibrinogen is greater than, globulin is greater than albumin. So albumin is the least molecular weight. And 80% of this total colloid osmotic pressure of the plasma mainly result from a albumin fraction. Only 20% from the globulins and almost none from the fibrinogen. So always remember, according to weight, if you compare, fibrinogen is greater than, globulin is greater than albumin. But according to plasma colloid pressure, if you compare, albumin is greater than, globulin is greater than fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is completely zero in the case of oncotic pressure, whereas albumin is the maximum and globulin is the intermediate one. So mainly albumin is important in the view of capillary and tissue fluid dynamics, very important point. And some plasma proteins also act as carriers for the water insoluble lipophilic substances. We know when we need carriers, because they are not lipid soluble, then we need carriers for water soluble substances. So example, we have albumin mainly act as carrier for the steroid hormones. You know our steroid hormones, corticoids, cortisol, or testosterone, etc., estrogen, and fatty acids, thyroid hormones, and also carrier proteins are mainly sex hormone binding globulin like SHBG, which binds the estradiol and testosterone, and also we have corticosteroid binding globulin like CBG, and also thyroxine binding globulin. So remember that plasma protein act as carriers for steroid hormones, fatty acids, thyroid hormones. Very important point. And next we are coming to the end. When the tissue proteins are decreased, normally by any case, by any disease or whatever the reason, whenever the tissue proteins are low, then the plasma protein will immediately replace them. So this is one of the important and nice helping nature of plasma protein. So whenever the tissue protein is low, plasma goes there and help them. So the whole plasma protein is imbibed into the tissue macrophages, mainly the process of pinocytosis. So once they split into the amino acids, they are transported to back into the blood and throughout the body to build the cellular proteins wherever needed. So this is the process. Because of pinocytosis process, by the help of macrophages, our plasma proteins go to the site of the tissue where the protein is lacking and just go and help those tissues by providing the amino acids. So in turn, these amino acids can form the proteins. So the plasma proteins are labile proteins, storage medium, and also they represent the readily available source of amino acids when the tissue requires. So the constant equilibrium between the plasma protein and amino acid of the plasma and also tissue protein is maintained. So normally the protein synthesis and degradation for each day as a part of continuous state of flux of amino acid. So what happens is, whenever the tissue's protein is very low, it continuously provides the amino acid. So this continuous flow of amino acids lead to continuous formation of protein wherever it is needed. So during starvation or debilitating diseases, the ratio of total tissue protein to the total protein in the body always remains constant, about 33 is to 1. This is mainly obtained by our plasma protein. So during starving or debilitating diseases, the ratio of total tissue protein to total plasma protein in body remains constant, about 33 is to 1. That is, total tissue protein in our body is 33 and plasma protein is only 1. So treatment for severe acute whole body proteins decrease or deficiency is by injecting intravenous infusion of plasma proteins. So within few days or sometimes within in hours, amino acids of protein get distributed throughout the cells of a body and form the new proteins. So whenever a person have low proteins in his body, we can just inject the plasma protein so that they can immediately form proteins in his body within few days or also sometimes in hours only it can produce. So decrease in plasma concentration of protein. What? Decrease in plasma concentration of protein because of failure to produce the normal amount of protein or by means of any leakage of protein from the plasma may cause the plasma colloid osmotic pressure to fall off course, and this leads to increase in capillary filtration throughout the body, and also it may lead to extracellular edema. So just now we have said generalized edema or extracellular edema. Edema always takes place in the extracellular fluid because there only interstitial fluid and there only our plasma is present. If swelling is taking place inside the cell, uh, it may also takes place in some conditions. In brain, in the case of brain, it takes place intracellular, and extracellular edema is mainly taken place when the colloid osmotic pressure is rapidly decreased. Now let us see the process of plasmapheresis. This is the last part in our lesson. So plasmapheresis is nothing but the plasma is removed from the blood without removing the RBC in some person and donating it to others. So the blood is drawn from a patient and the plasma is separated from it, and the RBC is returned to the body of the patient, and yet some plasma is removed. So now this removed plasma is used on patients who have higher amount of plasma protein in blood and making it viscous, or on those who have certain antibodies which are present in their blood. So now at present there's very high rise in COVID-19. So in this COVID-19 situation you can see there is plasma therapy for some patients, like the plasma is taken from patients who have antibodies against COVID already, who have infected with COVID, so that they can transfer this plasma to other person so that he can save that person. So this is a process. This process is nothing but plasmapheresis. That is, we are taking the plasma from one person and giving to other person, or sometimes in that person only may have some disease, like you can see here he's having lot of plasma proteins, so that it is getting viscous, so that we can add some extra plasma and make it diluted. So all this condition, so in say in any diseases or those, we use this process. So this is all about like simple and clear introduction to our blood and plasma proteins. So now you can say the blood have RBC, WBC, platelets and plasma, and our plasma proteins are nothing but albumin, globulin and fibrinogen. Albumin is the most important when compared with globulin and fibrinogen. Fibrinogen don't have any importance in colloid osmotic pressure. So those are all things which we need to understand in this chapter. So if you like our videos, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.